In Israel, it's just first come, first seat. It's the law of the jungle. We know that in Japan, culturally, you will wait for the older person, which means me, to sit down. But here in Israel, you see a seat, you need to grab it. And also, one more thing about the introduction we got from Dentsu. I just learned that this was the first time, right? The first time you gave a presentation outside of Japan. We're very happy that you chose Israel to do so. You can show love again. Yeah, that's better. And one more about orientation, people standing or sitting in the back. There are a few seats here and there, so you can come feel, get closer to the stage if you want to see the stage from a little closer distance. So I'm not sitting, I'm standing. What's the procedure? Yeah, I'm sitting. That's a bit of the startup nation. Now we will show the resourcefulness of the Israeli entrepreneur. We only broke one electronic box, but you see the solidarity. Aha. So thank you everyone for staying to this hour, and thank you for this great panel. The name of the title of the panel is New Media, but it could actually be media in general, because we have here people representing all sorts of media, new or what would be considered old. We have the music giant, we have the advertising conglomerate from Japan. We have Yuval, who has a hobby of selling companies to Samsung, and more about the technology, and Shaul, who runs Playbuzz, which is the world's leading publishing platform for interactive content. So we'll try to find a few topics and common issues to address all these aspects of media, but let's start with a quick round of introductions, who you are, what you do in your organization, etc. So Itai, we start with you.
Sure. Itai Rahat, Head of Product Marketing Technology at Warner Music Group. Warner Music Group is an umbrella company for a few record labels and technology content companies. We have over 1,500 artists and brands tied to music worldwide. We sign the artist, produce the music, distribute and market it. My division, Warner Music Artist Services, is an internal agency of sorts. We handle merchandise production and sales in tour and e-commerce, website builds, all of the digital engagement, email, mobile, advertising, social, etc. When you have a brand marketer around the company that wants to create a marketing campaign or build audience for their brand, they come and use our central services. So the product team has data, APIs, social, mobile, marketing automation, email, websites, and advertising technology. And we provide central tools for acquisition, engagement, and reporting for our fan and artist audiences.
And personally, as your name insinuates, you're an Israeli guy. You reside now in LA. Now, you started the music industry as a business career, or do you have any background in the subject?
Yeah, so I'm from Jerusalem, been past decade in the US, Boston, New York, and LA. Was a musician, a pianist, music production, composing. At some early age, I realized I did internet advertising, started building websites, started getting into it. Then I advised with artists and music colleges. And then I worked at a company that was doing direct-to-consumer, fan clubs and VIP packages for concerts. It was acquired by Warner. And they said, hey, we're building this direct-to-consumer division, and we need somebody to do technology. So as a good Israeli, I was like, I'll do the solutions on technology. And from there, we built that division. Yeah. So.
Excellent. That's a great story, and shows a little bit how you got there. Now, we know a little bit more about Dentsu, but maybe Yakimori and Miki, you can tell us a bit about your roles in that organization.
Hi. My department is focused on the cutting-edge technology and the services. We bring the new services in Japanese market. About the media, we are very interested social media. Means social media become the more powerful and more effective in Japanese market too. So we invest this much in the Israeli startups. This company focus on the social media, analytics, and execution company. So we want to more good service for social media. We want.
Yeah, and it's great that you have that activity related to Israel. I'm sure that's new to a lot of the audience. So we're very happy to have also that part of the world. Yeah. He must be on the payroll. And Miki-san?
Okay. So our team. So by saying our team is just two of us right now. So our team is very focused on Israeli market, and we have been working in Israeli market for almost 2 years. And we have a partner company here that he mentioned that we invested in one company, and we have the people from partner companies here, and yeah, like thank you. And so right now we have only 2 people, but our company is very, very interested and also very focused on this Israeli market, and I feel we really feel that very much. So we're trying to build a stronger team that is going to face more sincerely with this country, and we're looking for like a lot of collaboration that can make like big business with using our asset in Israel. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent, and I hope this grows more and more. Mr. Tal, Yuval, I don't know how to introduce you, whether at your, whatever it is, your official title, whatever is your secret project, maybe as the founder of Garage Geek, so I'll leave you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Yuval Tal. I'm the head of the engineering team for the New York office for Samsung Next. Samsung Next is an offshoot from Samsung, working on software and services by building products and working with other entrepreneurs and helping them. Also, I did the Garage Geeks. So some of you know it was an Israeli place to hang out for geeks. Doing a lot of community and events, parties. How back do you want to go?
Maybe, well, I'll just help you with that. You're being too humble. One of the biggest engines in the community was the Garage Geeks, which was really a volunteer work of a lot of geeks, and they're the guys who made it cool to be geeks, which we didn't grow up like that, but and that was a place where a lot of people had a place to go, work on projects just for fun, for education, and you see the list of entrepreneurs that started it in that weird Chulon garage is quite amazing. And is there anything special you're cooking for us these days?
Before joining Samsung Next, I had a few startups in the media. The last one was a game show called Out of Tune, which was a music online game where you would see a video, you would tune in to the app twice a day, and it would be a trivia game around music. And prior to that, we did a social chat app where chat would be a media, so you could see people talking if there would be celebrities, and then you could see your chat, but also collaborate with them. You could ask them questions, not be part of the chat, but be part of a side chat.
That's cool. That's another aspect of media I didn't say before. And last but not least, Shule.
Yes, hi, I'm Shaul Olmert, co-founder and CEO of Playbuzz. Just like Itai, I'm from Jerusalem.
Maybe just
yeah. So I said, just like Itai, I'm from Jerusalem, but I'm one of the lucky ones. I managed to escape in a balloon, and here I am. And so Playbuzz is in the business of interactive content. We're a platform for creating fun content experiences that are being used by advertisers, publishers, and corporations in order to engage audiences and gain valuable user insights and user data. And we're in the business of servicing the Dentsu and the Warner Music of the world and try to enable them to achieve more with sophisticated technology.
Maybe you can give a few more examples of your known clients.
We work with more than 16,000 different partners around the world. Some of the famous ones, big publishers like MTV, ESPN, AOL, and others. Big advertising conglomerates all over the world, and different institutions, banks, universities, pretty much everyone who engages audiences and wants to provide fun experiences, we're here for you. So happy to help.
Yeah, so most likely if we see an interactive piece of content in any of these publications, it was created and syndicated using the Playlist
If it's a
platform.
good one, yes. That's only the good ones.
We will work on memorizing it later.
The Bohemian Rhapsody one, I think I played it.
That's, listen, we have, as I said, 16,000 publishers that are producing hundreds of pieces of content a day. It's very hard to remember all of them, but I'm glad you had a good experience.
Amazing time.
Yeah, but Yuval is worth more from eCPM perspective, but never mind. That's two professional jokes. So obviously media, we have here two people who represent the startup world and the three people who represent the more institutional media world. But media is completely changed. The way advertising is done is changed. The way people create, produce music is changing. And it's not only it's changing, but the pace of changes is just increasing and increasing. Would be great to learn from our panelists a little bit what they see as the new developments and changes in their industries within the broader media space. So again, we'll start with Itai. What are you seeing new, or how Warner needs to evolve to keep relevant in the world that everybody can record themselves, produce, and upload it to the channels?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more music, there's a lot more consumption, there's a lot more avenues and channels to reach consumers, reach fans, and also distribute music today. So the record labels had a pretty big challenge, beginning of the 2000s, to try and evolve from being a very heavy CD retail type of world where you sell a CD, $20 for the two best songs, to downloads through other partners, and now streaming through other partners, where the return on each music released is a lot smaller. So the models have completely changed. The channels of revenue have completely changed. We look a lot more long-term and invest in growing a brand over time, as streaming over time, playlisting, music discovery. How do we feed artists in a way where they can have a direct interaction with the audience, right? So one piece is how do we own a lot of our first-party data, hence the network of hundreds of websites, stores, email lists, mobile lists that we provide for our artists to be able to build, because that's ultimately how they know their audience best. That's ultimately who they can then reach via the different channels. That didn't used to be the case in the 90s. Today, you can't live without it, right? But you own a lot of the first-party data, so it's not just for insights, it's also for actual activation, both at the artist level and also at the label and Warner level, right? So we try to do cross-promotions. We try to understand which fan likes which music, which artist, what is the next piece of content that they want. We build it and create. That's one piece. And the other piece is driving streaming and playlisting, discovery. How fans consume on our partners, on Apple, Deezer, Spotify, because ultimately that's where the fans are used to listening to music, and we want to work together with these services to make sure that we can reach fans in the best way.
So in a way, maybe one of the advantages is that because of the reach of your network, you can use data and other elements to grow. We'll get back to that point. Now, the Denso crew. So it's a similar question. The advertising world also got a few challenges, especially with the continuous growth of platforms like Google and Facebook, who are owning the market, the automation that they allow to some of the clients. and also, of course, emergence of new and more modern agency. How can a company like Dentsu adjust in that evolution? I'll let you two figure out how to answer between you two of you.
A very difficult question. So I think that maybe the not only Japanese market. So the Japanese big issue is the decline of the media reliability. Was also huge issue in Japanese market. So if decline of the media reliability, so our business is a big damage. So means advertising is a very sales are very difficult. So Dentsu is a very outstanding company in Japan. So the example, we make a rule about sales marketing. We make a guideline for the sales marketing a few years ago. So we have to make a rule about the fake news and uncertain article about this article.
So you see the role as an advertiser is not just to be the conduit between the advertisers and the audience, but also a gatekeeper that needs to keep it safe and authentic.
Yeah, I think that's true. Because so I think it's becoming more and more, okay, we used to control like the content of media before because we have a very strong relationship with media. We used to be a media company and most of our revenue is coming from media. So the reason behind this is because we could kind of control like all the media related and also including certain portion of content of the media. But now individual is becoming media, right? Like we have social media, we have Instagram, Twitter, and each person is like becoming media. They're posting what they want to say, and they become more and more popular, and we cannot control that. So in that sense, what kind of role company like Dentsu, agency like Dentsu can have? So I think we need to step in to the individual content world and try to have a contact with those like influencers or individuals, and I think we need to be more interactive with all those individuals as well. Yeah.
Excellent. So it means that even though it's a long business, and we saw that nice picture from the internet from 110 years ago, but still you need to evolve. And I think that's also an important lesson to anybody who wants in the audience to hear about innovation in advertising. Now, Yuval, you as somebody who sold a few companies and will always experience and try new things, whether they will be sold or not, but maybe after all the years you've been doing in Samsung, you have a little bit of a sense what would be, and Samsung is touching media from all sorts of different angles. How can a conglomerate like that in electronics make a defined strategic play in media? Or another way to ask the same question is where you think companies like Samsung will look like for innovation in the media area?
I can tell you like what we try to do, and how Samsung found interest in what we've been doing, at Out of Tune. At Out of Tune, we tried to create a game that would let people tune in at a certain time. They would see a show. It was like 20 minutes, where they would see a host and a DJ. They would be playing music, and then they would show 12 questions, and the users need to guess or know actually what song it is. And then there would be a money prize that would be divided by whoever answered all questions correctly. And we made a lot of interesting findings along the way. Like, first of all, we thought, maybe if we increase the price, more people would play the game. But we quickly realized people were not playing it for the money. Like if they would get a prize of 12 cents or $2, it wouldn't make a big difference.
No, I could tell you in advance, they play for glory.
So so first of all, they play for the bragging rights. Of course, they want to have their screenshots. But they came, at some point we realized they came to speak to the other players and they wanted to get the shout outs and they wanted to feel being part of something special. And we realized that this is like a new type of kind of interactive media that's happening in real time. And young audience, like around 16, 18, they're not used to tuning in at a certain time to watch something. For them, it's like Netflix, let me binge, I'll do whatever I want. So we found out that all this interactivity could be extremely interesting for them. And then you can bring it on, Samsung can bring it onto their TV to have this game be part of their service, obviously, and you can take it in different directions.
Yeah, it's almost an oxymoron thinking about Samsung trying to find ways to put the human touch when they're a massive scale of metal. But maybe this is also an opportunity to give a spoiler to the audience. Because at the end of the day, I also got to the same conclusion at Samsung, that people like to be together. They want to be in community, like we are here like that. And if you do something well and somebody tells you, wow, this is nice, this is awesome, yeah, people want a good world and some love. So every panel, at the end of the day, that's one of the conclusions. But it's nice to see that this is also, Samsung is thinking in terms of experience. That's not something I would think to before. And to you, Shaul, you wanted to say something?
I'll make 2 quick points. The first is that...
but maybe just say the points to the mic.
Okay, good deal. So I think I'm seeing a reverse trend. The promise of the internet was that you can reach an unlimited audience. Anyone from their basement can create a piece of content and it will go viral and reach billions of people around the world. And businesses used to measure themselves based on how far and how wide their distribution was. So it was all about getting to maximum eyeballs and get a lot of users to see your content and read your content. And at a certain point, it became evident that many businesses, even though they reached masses of people, they were able to generate only very few dollars. So if you looked at the dollar per person that they engaged with, it was a very low amount. And I think we are seeing the reverse trend right now, that publishers are actually closing down their content behind the paywall. So it's less about reaching the mass of the audience, it's more about reaching a very small segment of people who really care about your content or experience or service, care about it so much that they're actually willing to pay for it. So instead of trying to please 1 billion people and be a very small part in their day-to-day, businesses are more concerned about building something of massive value to a relatively focused group of customers/consumers and super serve them. In a way, it reminds me of my personal career. My first job outside, right after my military service was a high school teacher. So I was making arguably a profound impact on people's lives, and it was a very small group of people from Jerusalem. And now I'm in the business in which I'm reaching hundreds of millions of people every day. And I think that the trend we're seeing is that people learn to appreciate the value and the impact on a small group rather than the big, huge, inconceivable numbers that the internet can offer.
That's also a lot of the delta, right? Maybe you have a wide reach, but that small targeted group and what you can get from them and give to them is where that extra revenue, that extra value, that extra engagement will come from, and also ongoing and maybe pretty reliable ultimately. That's what we see with the fan bases as well.
Exactly, and I wonder, in music for you, it's a question for you, Itai. I mean, do you see that if someone, so there are always the big behemoths, I don't know, Madonna or R.E.M. or whoever the big performers for Warner Music are right now, but there are also small groups, maybe in a specific niche like, I don't know, acid house or whatever it is, a small category or a relatively small category that has an audience, has a certain breed of clubbers or music lovers or a certain ethnic group that they're trying to reach, and they can make a nice business if they reached only those people, and those people will double down on consuming that content. And do you believe that a platform as big as yours can also serve those niche cases.
Yeah, we have artists from all sizes, and in fact, we try to build them, but each artist also has their potential, and some we know they're a superstar, and that's how we treat them. Maybe they're already a superstar, maybe we want to make them one, and others we know where they fit or have a thought about where they fit, what's the target audience, and that will drive the strategy. What's the partnerships? What's the type of influencer? How much money we're going to put in each channel to reach different people, and then focus on that. And also in discovery, where we try to find the right people that will be interested in the right type of music, and it's not just genre-based, it's interest-based, anything we can learn about them. So I'd say we take an approach for all kinds of artists. We sign both. Our labels also have, one label focuses on larger pop artists, other on classic rock, there's a dance one. We definitely look at that based on the genre, the type of audience, and what's the potential we can reach with each artist.
I'm really curious. Maybe you can, other people can comment. It's really interesting to see that, to Yuval's point, you're trying to identify the emotional motivation, like what drives a user's behavior. So in your case, it was less about making money and more about the social recognition. And I find that while we all try to analyze that, those things are really changing. There was a period in time about 5 years ago in which all of us were taking extreme close-up photo shoots of the food we were served in restaurant. And it was really, really cool to, tell the world on each and every meal of the day exactly what you're eating. And people were very interested in that. And it grew all not only because people had enough of those photos, but also because the climate has changed. Now, superimposing yourself, super exposing is not considered cool anymore. The way people consume media and the way what they expect to get out of media is changing. And I think, we also always need to be on the guard and kind of ask ourselves, how are people evolving? And not necessarily assume that was true in a given point in time is going to be true forever.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I wanted to comment about music.
That's okay. I see you guys are going along. I'll go run some errands. Maybe I'll come back. It means a good panel. Oh, please go on.
Also, how we consume media, I think, has changed. For music, we used to watch MTV. You know MTV. We used to watch MTV. You started doing Vivo on YouTube. And now, in my mind, like the biggest change happened in February when Fortnite hosted a live concert of Marshmello. It was a 10-minute in-game experience. Kind of reminded me, I'm an old guy, kind of reminded me of Second Life back in the days, where Fortnite is not just a game, but it's a place to hang out with your friends. And now you can watch, a concert together. So the venue now has changed also. So I find that very interesting. I don't know if maybe you have some comment on that.
Yeah, well, that speaks to that, right? So that was very relevant. You have something to say?
Don't let me interrupt you. That means I've done a good job as a moderator. Please go.
So that exactly speaks to that specific, people that play Fortnite that will enjoy this, that type of experience. It was really tough to figure out the AR and VR and how do we give that experience. And then comes this thing with Marshmello, who does amazing things. We work with that team quite a bit because of all the collaborations with our artists. And it works great. And the thing is, it's not just Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. Those are important, but you have TikTok, you have Fortnite, you have Twitch. There's always something that's changing. To be an artist, you want to be where your fans are, and you want to be able to create the best experiences, preferably live. If you can't do live, maybe the closest you can get to it. But that one was really a brilliant. And now we're seeing a few similar things that are popping up in similar platforms or within Fortnite as well, and just continuing that trend.
That was a few minutes in our show, My Life as a Geek, by Israelis from two in New York and one in LA. But at the end of the day, as you can see, everybody is putting a lot of effort in creating this new experience, and we need to run and keep up with the different platforms and so on. So thank you. It's really very insightful. And hope it's also valuable to the audience. Now we have time for one last round of questions. That's how it is when you're having fun and semi-working microphones. So last question to the forum is, I'll start, well, we'll be boring. We'll start again with Itai, or you want me to start there? Okay, of course, let's start with Shaul now. And you'll be here wearing the hat of publishing and maybe online video distribution. What's the next big thing or the big change we will see? If there's somebody at the audience who's saying, I want to provide some new cool technology or product to cooperate with Playbuzz, what would that be?
So I'm afraid I forgot my crystal ball at home today, so I can't provide too much insight into the future. But I will say that a good question to ask yourself as an Israeli entrepreneur is, what is really my value to the ecosystem? I don't think that you can start the next Dentsu or the next Warner Music, even though we do have little two-story houses, just like the one you showed in Japan in 1901. We do have those. But I don't think it's realistic to start those kind of companies from here. You kind of ask yourself, what is, if what I'm creating, what is it meant to be within the ecosystem? Does it meant to be the underlying technology? Is it a service that can empower them in their ongoing business? And build a company towards that. And I think that the successful companies we see out of Israel, such as some of those that Yuval started and others, are companies that were able to fit in to super serve those big conglomerates in doing something super focused. It's very hard for Warner and Dentsu and others to develop something from scratch and do it better than anybody else in the world, because guess what? They got a core $100 billion business to take care of, and it's very time and resources consuming. But if you're able to innovate something and really be the best in the world in something small and focused and new, then I think you have an edge.
Nice. I think it's a good advice. Find the something you do better than anybody else and focus on that. Oh, nice. You're a great audience. Give one to yourselves as well.
Keep it up.
Yuval, you've been doing this cycle maybe for fourth or fifth time in your area of funky geek devices, inventions.
Cool geeks.
All that too. What do you think is the next thing that's going to happen? Where would you focus if you were just starting and trying to figure out where's the big opportunity?
I think it's shared experiences. In my mind, this is a huge thing that still haven't been fully explored. How can we do things together that are fun while being at home? Or even not being at home, but
it's okay to go outside of home, right? It's going to be illegal soon. We'll all be connected to the metrics. But until then, if I may interrupt you, I want to give you an advice. Go outside of the home sometimes. Go to the beach. Exercise. Go and hug somebody in real life. Then go back home and go on the social network and play games and have all your real experience. But every now and then, try to breathe some fresh air.
yes.
By the way, we also have too much agreements on the panels. People came from far places here to Israel, to the Middle East to see fights, and we are all just agreeing with each other all the time. So we apologize for that. Now, Dentsu's, let's say, again, I'm an entrepreneur who would want to get on the radar of Dentsu. Where do you think is the next innovation coming to in your area?
So in terms of media, we want to focus on OOH, which is out-of-home media. So as everyone knows, digital media has been growing like in the past 10, 15 years, like in everywhere in this world. But there are two media other than digital media that keeps growing in Japan, which is TV and OOH, which is out-of-home media. And the reason those two media has been growing is they succeeded in digital transformation. So, and especially I want to focus on this OOH media because this OOH media has been growing not only in Japan but also in global market. So since 2014, the CAGR, the growth per year, is 13% in a row. So it's like really huge, like super fast growing. So, and especially in Japan, you know, the transportation is very, very advanced, right? So here, like people, what kind of transportation do you use to commute?
Oh, here we
a
just,
board,
everybody is driving everything on everywhere.
That's not a
Sidewalk
good
and
place to
road
ask that question.
is okay. Just go and try not to get...
Yeah. So I see a lot of people like use BART or maybe own the car. But in Tokyo, I mean in Japan, it's totally different. We use, maybe you haven't seen this before, like the rush hour packed train. So we use metro, train, bus, taxi, those kind of, 90% of the people use those kind of transportation.
Metro is a good idea, yeah. I don't know. We don't know it here.
So this is also the reason why the digital OOH in those transportation is pretty much advanced in Japan. So for instance, in taxi in Japan, so we have like a digital panel that is set up on the back seat of the taxi. So when you get in the taxi, there is a panel in front of you. So that's a digital panel. And like a commercial movie or informative movie is keeps playing in the panel repeatedly. And it's not just that. So you can interact with the panel. And also, usual people don't really know this, but there is a hidden camera in a panel. And the camera detects if you are a male or female or about how old you are. And then in accordance with that information, the panel is going to change the content. So the targeting is also very, very advanced. And not only this is called taxi ad in Japan. And we have like a train digital panel in the bus, in the train platform. So I think it has been growing so fast, and I think it keeps growing in the future because the transportation is going to be more and more advanced, and in parallel with that, I believe that digital OOH will be make a big progress as well.
Yeah, I just find it, I've been doing a lot of panels about new media, and just the whole looking at it as OOH, out of the home media, is a nice way to look at it, and rather than slice it by devices. Last but not least, Itai, again, and if I want to start something in the music business or get on the radar of Warner, what do you think is going to be the next big challenge or the next big thing?
So we review a lot of companies every year, both from, a lot of them preferably are strategic partnerships where we can bring our artists and audience, and they can bring some new technology or a way to talk to this audience. And then there's a collaboration that can happen, investment collaboration. I think overall, anything that has to do with discoverability, understanding the fan base better, using existing infrastructure, existing data, but getting some insights and actions out of it, and figuring out how we cross-promote and how we really get the best new music to the right fan at the right time and in the right context and moment in their life. Anything that could help that is really what we aspire for all the time.
Yeah.
So.
As a music lover, I think the industry has went a long way. I think there's still way to go, and I think that's a great angle to look at it.
Yep.
So you heard all the advices we just heard now? Yeah. So you can now ignore that all, because we are all adults. The next panel will give you a little bit of word with people who really know what's coming next. We're going to invite a few children, including the oldest child in the world, for the next panel to learn some words of wisdom. So, Shaul, Yuval, Miki, Akimori, Itai, thank you very much. Toda, domo arigato.
Thank you for a great panel.